We have talked about this before, but Pokémon X and Pokémon Y, and the Kalos region in general, have countless loose ends. While some of them are likely not going to be addressed in Pokémon Legends Z-A as we are only inside of Lumiose City, there's a few that might be either completely present or at least be referenced. In the middle of those, there is one that everyone is really hoping is finally tied. So hey, I'm not so a strainer, and what about Eternal Flower Floette? Let's get into it. Eternal Flower Floette, most commonly known as AZs Floette, is a form of Floette that carries the Eternal Flower instead of a regular flower, like the rest of them boring ones. This Pokémon became part of one of the most interesting stories in the Pokémon world by taking part in the Kalos War 3000 years ago, and its death being the reason behind AZ building the ultimate weapon. While the goal was to revive his Floette, something he did achieve, he ended up taking the lives of many Pokémon, prompting his companion to abandon him and return only at the end of Pokémon X and Y. It was never obtainable in any Pokémon game, not through catching, which kinda makes sense considering how it would eventually return to its trainer, but not even through any mystery gift events, not even in Pokémon Go through a paid research, or a free one of course, free like subscribing to this channel and liking this video for example. I'm actually glad it was never in Pokémon Go, because that would mean it was simply handed to you basically. And also, that's why everyone's eyes are on Pokémon Legends Z-A. It is clear that this new Legends game will not go as far into the past as to show us the actual Kalos War, though it will likely show us a less developed city of Lumiose. And honestly, I don't even think AZ will play a major role in the game. I think he will likely be roaming the land in search of his Floette. I made a video about this exact topic a while ago if you want to check it out. I'll leave it linked in the pinned comment. So I don't think that AZ or AZs Floette will be important for Pokémon Legends Z-A. That should close the video, right? Well, not quite. While AZ's Floette is special because it was granted eternal life when it was revived, much like AZ was granted eternal life after being exposed to the power of the ultimate weapon, it was already an Eternal Flower Floette before, meaning that it was already the Pokémon we could never use. And this, well, this changes things. Eternal Flower Floette, despite its almost mythical status as the former King's Floette, is likely just a very rare form of this Pokémon. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that there's more mythical power in the flower itself than in the Pokémon. According to Flabebe's Pokédex entries, it draws upon the power of the flowers and it will carry the same flower for the rest of its life. This is once again mentioned in Floette's Pokédex entries, saying that it draws the flower's power for battle. This whole thing also makes me think that while we only know of an Eternal Flower Floette, it is very likely that there is an Eternal Flower Flabebe and an Eternal Flower Florges. Maybe there will be new Pokémon introduced in Legends Z-A, for example. Another thing that the Sun and Moon Pokédex tells us, since it has entries for Eternal Flower Floette, is that it carries flowers not found blooming anywhere anymore. Well, besides Sutopolis, but that's a single one. Still, this means that once they were blooming somewhere, even if likely in a single remote area, considering the rarity of this Pokémon and the lack of mentions of the flower. So, with this established, we can speculate that while AZ's Floette may not be in the game, we might actually see some Eternal Flower Floette. We might even see multiples of them. And the question would then be a simple one. Where would the flower be? Lumiose City will look very different from what we know in the modern day, but I believe that if the flowers were exposed to the surface, then we wouldn't be talking about them being gone, as someone would have surely planted them somewhere else or simply cared for them. In fact, if the flowers were so readily available, AZ would surely be very keen on doing that himself. He gave Sutopolis the tree that stands close to the Cave of Origin, where we can see one of those flowers bloom after all. Still, it is unknown if the flower was brought by him or if the tree has something to do with it blooming. It is also possible that these flowers are ancient and require some kind of more quote-unquote primal energy or life force to bloom, something that the proximity to the Cave of Origin would provide. One thing that I want to point out though before we continue is about Light of Ruin, its exclusive move. While we would be tempted to connect Eternal Flower Floette to the Treasures of Ruin because of this, that would be as baseless as connecting Necrozma, the Prism Pokémon, to Lumiose City and Legends Z-A just because of the Prism Tower. Pokémon has many repeating concepts and they do not need and rarely do connect. So continuing, since places that are hidden or deep into the earth seem to be the best bets for these kind of things, I'd say the much speculated about underground or catacombs or mines, whatever you want to call them, are the perfect place to find them. Maybe a simple small cluster, enough to either find a few odd Flabébés or Floette, or simply alter the form of the ones we catch on the surface. But there's another thing that makes me think that this form will be present in the game, and weirdly enough it has nothing to do with the Pokémon but actually with its flowers and the meaning that I attribute to the name Pokémon Legends Z-A. Of course, I've made a video about this if you want a more in-depth look at this whole thing, but the idea I have is that Z-A, the title of this Pokémon Legends game, is the idea of from the ending to the beginning. Basically, a kind of rebirth of Lumiose City into a new place with harmony between humans and Pokémon. You know, the whole vision of beautiful coexistence between people and Pokémon they talk about. This is what I believe Z-A means. Like, AZ is almost a foreshadowing of the one that brought the end, A being the first letter of the alphabet and Z being the last one. And he did. He fired the ultimate weapon and ended the war and the lives of many. So, how are these strange eternal flowers connected to this? Well, it all goes back to their actual inspiration. From a design point of view, the flower appears to be based on the red trillium, because of the red color and the 3 petals. But the association with the X and Y plot of Floette's revival and the terrible ending of the Kalos War might also mean there is an inspiration on the red spider lily. These flowers have many kinds of uses, being used for example in the treatment of Alzheimer's and also showing some promising results in the treatment of some kinds of cancer. But it is, of course, with more mythological eyes that we actually need to look at them. They are often found growing near cemeteries, something that worked well with their more eerie look, and this granted them a connection to the Lotus Sutra, with them also being called the Manjushake, which are described as ominous flowers that grow in hell and that help guide the dead to their reincarnation. Hell could easily be considered the lower part of Lumiose City, the mines, and the theme of reincarnation or revival could work very well with the concept of redeveloping a city, from the end to a new beginning. And so, as a summary, I believe that AZs Floette will not be part of the game, but Eternal Flower Floette will. These strange flowers will be found in the underground, where we'll either find special Flabébé or take our Flabébé or Floette to change forms. Of course, if I'm assuming they will have a Flabébé, I'm also believing that there will be a Florges, an Eternal Flower Florges of course. Now, could their presence be simply a way to tie a loose end, or could they play a more important role in the story of Legends Z-A? Could they be connected to Zygarde somehow? I mean, we could even see some eternal forms, that would be pretty interesting. But I guess that, like many other things here, only time will tell. And that is all I have for you today. No AZ Floette in the game, but Eternal Flower Floette in the game. But what about you? Do you see this happening? Let me know in the comments down below. And now, like the video if you like it, dislike if you don't, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more Pokemon content and also ring the bell so you know when the next video is out. Also, you can become a channel member or check out my merch in order to further support the channel. I'd be forever thankful for that. You can follow me on social media or check out one of my streams here and on Twitch. All the links are in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.